known as triangular trade, was the worst form of man's inhumanity to man and the most costly in human life of all long-distance global migrations. Hundreds of Africans chained tightly to plank beds in the belly of slave ships in horrific conditions were transported via the Atlantic and stripped of all human dignity on arrival in Europe and America. It is the greatest crime the Caucasians committed against the black race. It is impossible to discuss the transatlantic slave trade without a copious reference to impoverishment and underdevelopment of Africa and its peoples. The triangular trade left the continent in ruins. Western Spring Television identifies transatlantic slave trade as a watershed event in history. Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkelemens was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan ló ń kojú àwọn ará àdúgbò, àwọn ará àwùjọ tí ohun ò dẹ̀ dókè. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìnira, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìyà làwọn èèyàn ń kojú rẹ̀ ní àdúgbò. Ojú ọ̀nà tó kù díẹ̀ káàtó, iná ọba tó mẹ́ẹ̀ tó ń ṣe ségesège, àwọn tó ń hu ìwà àbàṣejẹ́ òbí tí ń sun lẹ́rùn, àti àwọn nǹkan tí ò tí ì dé tí gbọ́ ìjọba. Ṣé wọ́n ní etí ọba nílé etí ọba lóko, èèyàn náà ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Òun náà ló jẹ́ kí ìkànnì Western Spring Television gbé ètò tí ó jẹ́ kẹ́yìn ara lé ẹ̀yin ará àwùjọ kẹ́lẹ́ mọ́ sọ bí tí bàtà bá ti ń tayé lẹ́sẹ̀ fún àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba. Ohun tẹ́ ẹ ṣe ni wípé ẹ mú fóònù yín, ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yín, ẹ dàbù rẹ̀, ẹ mọ̀ yà ní bọ̀rọ̀, ẹ dàbù rẹ̀, ẹ ṣe àkàálẹ̀ ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó ìjọba, ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó àwọn aláṣẹ, ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó àwọn elétò ìlera, àwọn elétò ààbò àti àwọn míì tí ọ̀rọ̀ kàn. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí fọ́nrán náà ìyẹn fídíò tẹ́ máa ṣe àkálẹ̀ rẹ̀ kó mọ̀ ju ìṣẹ́jú 2 tàbí 3 lọ. Ẹ má fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa ní orí WhatsApp lórí ẹ̀rọ 0803 865 1049 0803 865 1049. Ẹ jẹ́ kí gbogbo àwọn fọ́nrán yín, àwọn àwòrán yín kó máa wọlé. Orí ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí, ẹ̀yin gangan lẹ jẹ́ ojú ẹlẹ́rìí. Ohun táwọn èèyàn nílò, ohun tó ń jẹ àwọn èèyàn láwùjọ níyà, ilé tí ò nílé ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀, ibi tí ò níbi tó ti ń dẹ ẹ̀gbin nù, tó wá jẹ́ pé ẹ̀gbin wọn ní àwọn ará àdúgbò, àwọn aráàlú lára, gbogbo ẹ̀ ẹ fi tó àwọn aláṣẹ létí. Ohun tẹ́ ẹ nílò ní agbègbè yín, ẹ jẹ́ kí àwọn aláṣẹ mọ̀. Orúkọ mi ni Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé, èmi ni atọ́kùn ètò ojú ẹlẹ́rìí lórí Western Spring Television, ìkànnì 150 ní gbogbo ọjọ́ Ajé láago 2 ọ̀sán.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph ATEWE,
And your sports Amazon, NENGI ERNERST.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
The Korean War of 1950 to 1953 pitched North and South Korea against each other in response to intrigues by nations beyond their border with different interests from those canvassed by the two brother nations. The Korean War had all the nuances of an external conflict induced by powers that were interested in subjugating North and South Korea. Japan had leveraged on its military power to annex Korea in 1900 and imposed a military union that did not sit well with the citizens. Japan not only lost its war of conquest against Korea, all its powers were obliterated by the effect of the World War II. The end of World War II got Korea divided into two nations along 38th parallel lines by the instrumentality of the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The Korean War lapsed into a Cold War when it stopped the prying eyes of external forces into the internal affairs of a nation now divided along its north and southern territories. Western Spring Television identifies the Korean War as a major event in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC). Western Spring Television, ours it is.
All right, good morning and welcome to the show Sports Swing on Western Swing Television, where we give you stories making headlines at the moment. And talking about stories making headlines, right now I can confirm to you that Daniel Levy has met with Bayern over possible Kane deal, and that's a breaking news. We did report last week that we know that Harry Kane will be moving to Bayern, and as we speak, they are in a meeting, and the Sky Sport also reports that that deal should be successful, and it should be a Bayern player next week. My name is Joseph ATEWE, saying good morning.
And I am NENGI Ernest Ademola. Thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of Sports Spring on Western Spring Television. A whole lot going on in the sporting world. Yesterday was the 45th Ordinary General Assembly of the CAF. And of course, they did discuss so many things that will put and give them headway when it comes to competitions in general, most especially in the inter-club competition. And aside from that, we also saw the 2026 World Cup qualifiers draw, when Nigeria fell into Group C. Now, all of this and more is what we'll dish out to you this morning. Welcome on board once again.
And on that note, we start with the 2026 World Cup draw. Nigeria, as you rightly stated, has been drawn in Group C. So Nigeria will be playing teams like, what's them right now?
Benin Republic, Rwanda, South Africa.
And South Africa.
Of course.
And don't forget, the winner of that group qualifies automatically. And we're talking about having a fair draw yesterday before the draws were conducted immediately after the general meeting that was held in Abidjan. And Nigeria should go through that, I believe.
Of course, I think it's the belief of everyone right here, because we've been drawn in a group whereby we have the likes of South Africa, Zimbabwe, Benin Republic, Rwanda, and Lesotho. And let's not also forget that Benin Republic is being headed by our former gaffer in person of Gennett Raw, who left his position of taking charge of the Super Eagles around, is it 2021 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, if at all we're going to play Benin Republic, that will be the first time we'll be meeting them. Talk about the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Well, let's bring you updates, because it's not just Group C in which Nigeria is involved. We have several other groups. Now, the African draw for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers has been released, and Nigeria Super Eagles have been placed in Group C of the qualifiers. Like I rightly stated, the draw, which was held in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, after the 45th Congress of CAF, saw the Super Eagles of Nigeria being drawn into Group C alongside South Africa, Zimbabwe, Benin, Rwanda, and Lesotho. Now, nine African countries plus one international qualifier will represent the continent in the 2026 World Cup, which will be co-hosted by Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Now, the Black Stars of Ghana has denied Super Eagles the opportunity of playing at the last edition of the competition in Qatar. So let's give you how it stands concerning the full draws. And for Group A, we have Egypt, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, and Djibouti. For Group B, we have Senegal, RD Congo, Mauritania, Togo, Sudan, and South Sudan also in that group. That's for Group B. But for Group C, like I did say before, we have Nigeria, Benin, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, and Lesotho. For Group D, we have Cameroon, Cape Verde, Angola, Libya, Swaziland, and Mauritius. For Group E, we have the likes of Morocco. Of course, they did talk about Morocco yesterday, talking about the fact that they are the future when it comes to African football and African representatives all over the world. Also for Group E, we have Morocco, Zambia, Congo, Tanzania, Niger, and Eritrea. For Group F, we have Ivory Coast, Gabon, Kenya, Gambia, Burundi, and Shekels. For Group G, we have the likes of Algeria, Uganda, Mozambique, Botswana, not leaving out Somalia. For Group H, we have Tunisia, Equatorial Guinea, Namibia, Malawi, Liberia, and Sao Tome and Principe. That is how it stands currently. And last but not the least, for Group I, we have Mali, Ghana, Madagascar, Central African Republic, Comoros, and Chad.
Well, if anything will happen, I think the group where Sir Charles is, I mean, that might happen. Somalia rather does not have any chance. And looking at the last group we just read out, anyone can qualify. Mali.
Exactly, yeah. We have Madagascar, Central Africa.